welcome. We'll just use the chat for interaction, the chat window on the right-hand side. All right, so what we've got here is really, I mean, maybe we should start at the beginning and then progress from there. So Confluent, the core product is Kafka and event-driven services. So this is a high-level session, right? This is not going to go into
Yeah.
too much technical. We've had the workshop.
Yep.
I think the first question is why use Kafka, and then the next question is for this round table, just what can people expect? You know, what can we cover in this short time?
Yeah. Maybe I'll start with the why Kafka.
Mm,
Actually, when we start with the really old times, like the 20 years ago, when we had the databases, it will be the de facto for the most of the systems.
mm,
But when we move to the microservices and the connection between all these services with the other data stores, we need something a bit real time, not static. And when we look at the like the old technology to the new versions of the real time, Kafka is the backbone and maybe the central nervous system for the whole microservices. And if you are today never heard about the Kafka, or if you are starting the microservices, probably you will be the first. The first address will be go to Kafka and learn and how you can progress with your microservices and you can deliver your product. Actually, maybe that will be the brief Kafka and the Confluent. And Confluent has the enterprise grade solution like the Kafka offering
mm.
for Confluent Cloud as a like the SaaS product, and we have a platform product for the like the if you want to manage by yourself. But today mostly I'll talk about the Confluent Cloud and how you can leverage. And I will not go really deep, and it's not the technical session. We had the technical session before, and today I will talk about really 5 aspects of the how we can do the innovations and how we can transform the businesses. Yeah, the first one we are always like if you have really limited time, you need to have these 5 things. Uh, you need to look long-term competitive advantage and the return on investment when you are picking a new like the software or new technology or you want to adapt them. And the second one will be how to get things done, like to make sure that uh, everything is working well. And the third one will be the security, and the fourth one will be the how we can evaluate our options. I believe we have many options and how we can achieve the best out of all of them. And then the last one will be the, maybe questions, like we need to ask the real questions. Maybe I will just keep it into the last part. So I
Yeah.
think that 5 points I will talk about. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I think on the first point, in terms of, I think it's more a business topic.
Yeah.
How to get how to look at Kafka and get a return on investment, because you mentioned microservices. First thing, many people don't necessarily need microservices. The
Mhm.
next thing is how are they going to deploy it? There's different ways, right? And one of them is through this event-driven platform. So I would assume there's a short-term and a long-term outlook of using this Kafka platform.
Yeah, like the usually like if you start the project, you are really hype out because of all the buzzwords, all the marketing. Like everyone say
Mm,
that this is the amazing platform. You need to definitely use it for your technology.
mm,
But we always need to keep in mind and what is our long-term competitive advantage if we start to use this technology. And like when we look at the Confluent, and what you can have is like the fully managed Kafka offering. And today, if you need a real-time applications and all the data, you want to make sure that like they're communicating with each other, Confluent is the platform. So when you look at the adoption, the return on investment, like when I talk with our customers in the beginning, the discussion always starts, okay, how much I need to pay? Like this is the pricing discussion all the time.
mm.
But I sometimes I feel like the developers also cost money, and we need to make sure that like when we invest, time is also money. And if you start today to use platform and without any bottleneck, and if one of the vendor is supporting you to make sure that you can reach your long-term goals, and that will actually give you extra time to run away and go to market faster. So that's why, like, when I always highlight the return on investment, and we need to keep in your mind that the developers are costly and the time is costly. And when we look at the evaluate the product, we should consider and they compare uh, altogether when we do the return on investment.
Yeah, so you're talking about developer cost, some kind of fixed cost. I
Yeah.
mean, it is a variable cost actually, but it could be considered fixed. And also some opportunity cost of not acting. So it seems to me, in terms of this long-term competitive advantage, I mean, I think it's easy for you to say that there's a long-term competitive advantage. It does need alignment with the customer, and perhaps that comes with knowing what problem they have to solve and who their initial customers would be and how fast their market will grow.
Yeah.
Uh,
And usually, like, maybe this will bring us to second point, like the when
mm,
we adapt the technologies, like it's not all about the functions of the product. We need to understand, like, how we create our innovations and what is the use case for this innovation. Like and when we look at our customers, we need to understand the customer better, and they check that, okay, our requirements, like, we need to deliver this for that use case. For example, if you're a like the taxi hailing company, and
mm,
probably if I try to book that in the application, I don't want to book 2 days later. Yeah, I just want to get my taxi and I go to home. And that's why this is a problem for the real time, and you want to make sure that in your business use case you deliver requirements for your customers immediately. So that will be a good example for Kafka or Confluent Cloud. And if you have that type of use cases requires immediate action for your business, and it will be an advantage. And go to market, as you mentioned, that it
yeah,
will be.
so-called low hanging fruits, but also having a roadmap. It seems it might be useful to have a roadmap of product.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Uh,
I mean, you work with products, companies developing products. You also work with end users. Is there much difference on how they approach this adaptation of new technology? Given that everyone's going to have a legacy, and then they're going to have this way to move forward with available technology.
yeah, when usually the innovation kicks in when they actually hit the bottleneck, or they start to feel like, okay, we cannot go beyond this and we cannot advance the product anymore. And
Mm,
that was a pain. And usually that is the last point that they accept, okay, I need to change the technology or find a new technology. And when I look at the end users and the customers who is like the just using the data to
mm,
create some analytics or the some like the insights from their business, actually they start to realize that the world is not static anymore. So it is pretty fast, and they need to adapt. And then they also think about, okay, why we cannot get this insight easily? If I have a customer and if I have application, and if it's click through to some of the activities, but there's a bottleneck, and if they are stopping to use the application, they want to know at the moment. And if they need to do some of the enhancements, they need to know that which one is the most crucial. So you can only realize this one if you have like the real-time data and you figured out what will be the problem. And if I go to the not the like the end user, the the people or the developers who's creating the product, the bottleneck usually again the old-fashioned doing the things and the requirements from the business side. I feel like it is hand to hand. Sometimes business users say, okay, I want this, and the developers needs to find a way, and it is a time to change and look for the new products.
mm. So there seems to be, whether it's creating a product or whether it's providing product and services to a enterprise, there seems to be an inflection point, a point at
Yeah,
which innovation happens, and that has to have a trigger, and that
yeah,
trigger is some kind of stress point. The business is at a point of needing to change.
yeah.
Um,
And
mm,
sometimes like the do we need to wait till last minute? Like that
mm,
is the maybe biggest question we need to ask. And like when we do the planning, always we look for okay, next year I will deliver this product. But usually we don't look back and think, okay, what if I cannot deliver the product on time? Like all these questions,
mm,
we
mm,
usually don't ask in advance. Yeah. So But some companies I'm working, they are pretty proactive, and they just engage. Okay, we have a new product, and you are expert on that, like how the other customers are doing. Probably that will be also easier way to adopt a new product.
Yes, looking at the competition.
Yeah.
It seems that the important thing, like you say, point number two is how to get things done. Look for those problems, or look for the problems that also have impact,
Yeah.
value to the business. Okay. The third point you were talking about, consider security. Um, with everything to think about, is security really important to everyone, or is it more important to some industries? Obviously, financial services.
Yeah, actually, security is important for everyone. I
Mm,
believe you are using a phone and you don't
mm,
want to get your knowledge, like all your data leakage to the other people's. So probably you'll not be happy and you will switch off that application immediately.
mm,
So that's why it doesn't matter what type of service you are providing. And first, you need to be reliable and you need to make sure that your security is intact. So when you are looking for the new product or new innovation, probably that was the last time, like the last thing we always think about as a developer. So
mm,
okay, I'll get things done, but security will figure it out. But what if your technology doesn't have the security feature in place? Because sometimes some of the products, like if you start with the like the open source project, usually there's no security, and either you will build that security or you'll just go with one vendor who built all the security, and you need to make sure that your options, like if it's available. So that will be the first case usually I check, because
mm,
if I know that if I spend 2 months for that project and if I cannot secure the product, and no one will use it. Yeah. So recently, like I believe like 4 months ago, 5 months ago, there's one issue, log4j. There's a big vulnerability, and everyone, like all the developers, like they spend some time to fix all the issues. So think about that. If you have a vendor or like like the software doesn't have this problem, so you don't need to spend more time, and you'll just focus on that your product. So that will be the important case, and look for the security and check what is your options when
great.
you pick a when
So,
you're going.
so getting specific to microservices and event-driven architecture for microservices, what would be the specific considerations
Okay.
around that? I mean, it doesn't have to be Kafka, but perhaps because that's what you know, perhaps you can
Mhm.
give some examples. Where
Yeah.
where do people need to look? Mm,
Okay, like microservices, which means that we have the different services and sometimes they need to cooperate together and they need
mm,
to share some data. But
mm,
when we talk about them, if we don't have the granular security for each data points, like you can store in the Kafka, which means that you have a topic, and if you share your topic with all microservices, maybe it is too much. Like when we give example from the AWS, it's always advocate for the limited privileges for everyone. So if my microservice only needs to read data from my orders topic, and I think
mm,
it should be that way. It shouldn't read my users or see what's available in the other clusters or the other topics. And if what if I lose that API keys for that particular microservices, which means that the person who is in charge or who got that API key can see everything. So it is a vulnerability actually. That's why, like in microservices world, we need to make sure that like all the services has only privileges what they need to do, not more than
mm.
that. Yeah.
So this can happen at the authentication layer, which most people know about with APIs,
Yeah.
but you're also saying that this can happen at the data layer, and then how one organizes data in event architecture.
Like usually, and I can talk about the Kafka
Yeah.
way. We have
Mm,
the topics, and each topics you can have the access control list, and you can design and create an API in Confluent Cloud, and which means that like these microservices can only
mm,
access like the only sales related topics, like the sales, like you can do a wildcard in the developer case, and which means that like it will have a specific role and just access the data level. And again, authentication level again depends on the your like the way you are using that one. It can be again, you can define in the API level.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sure there's more to it, and I would know more about it if I watched the workshop earlier, I guess,
Yeah.
because you're using terminology like topics, right? Which
Yeah.
I would assume is a specific way of tagging data.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, like the topic is, if you're thinking about a relational database, it's like a table. And in
mm.
table, you have order table. And in Kafka terms, topic is like a order topic. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we've talked about what to look for in investment and where to start to get things done and security. The next one you talked about is all these different technologies, and like I've said earlier, um, they're open source. How to evaluate the options and also the vendor, right? The approach.
Yeah.
Um,
Actually, like when we think about it broadly in one software, like there can be open source version and there's enterprise version.
mm,
And first of all, what I do is like compare what is offering for the open source and what is offering for the enterprise. And the enterprise version will be in a different vendors. So when I look at the first thing, as always, I check the security. Like I want to make sure that like all the security is available. If in the open source version it's not available, probably I need to do an enterprise version and they get this like the check the availability. And when it comes to the vendor, like usually I check the culture of innovation in the vendor. Like are they driving this product into the new high level? Because if you want to buy a product and if it's not evolving, it is not creating new opportunities for you, like probably a couple of years later you need to change that product. So that will be the important thing. And the culture of innovation, the second one will be the customer service. If you have a question and if you're stuck somewhere in your development phase, probably you need to ask the questions, and your question will be to the vendor, can I get answers if I stuck somewhere? And like otherwise you'll be alone even though you have enterprise like the software, and if you don't have a customer service you cannot go much. And the easiest way, probably check, you can check 1 or 2 years or 3 years how the product evolve and what type of features they added. And then maybe if you are talking with the vendor, ask their roadmap, what is new, what is next.
mm.
And this will be helpful. And probably the minimum you can expect from the partner as a vendor, and they need to they need to be interested in your success, because it's all about your business and the vendor make sure that you are successful.
Yeah, you can probably tell a lot through early interactions. How do they come across when you tell them, I want to do this? How do they consult?
Yeah.
Because I know, and you've done pre-sales, so a sign of a good pre-sales is really to understand the needs.
Yep, exactly. And like
Mm,
some of the use cases you can solve it and some of them you cannot. You need to be
mm,
clear actually. Like you cannot say, oh, I can do it somehow. Like it doesn't
mm.
work that way. Like, some of the use cases meant to use that software, but some of them not.
So coming to Confluent, right? I mean, you're not going to say it, but I'm going to say it because this is what this is what the session is about.
Yeah.
Is like I'm there and I'm approaching different ways of solving my problem, right? APIs and databases and other architectures. How would I know to approach Confluent? What sort of circumstances or situation? Oh, yeah, or you can do everything, right? I mean, event-driven architecture is the reality of the world, and everyone should use it. Where would I start?
Okay, like usually, like because of my education, maybe I will be a bit cautious because I want to make sure that what you really want. Sometimes I talk with the people, they have the
Mm,
different perspective, and when they hear the, okay, I heard the Kafka, it is microservices, everything is good,
mm,
but like usually I just go like the one, like the step back and ask them, like, okay, we want to do microservices or we want to do these services, but who will use it? Is it your customer or you will use it? And if you make sure that it is internal, like who are the stakeholders? Because I prefer to talk with them too, like not only the technical side, I prefer the business side too, because it innovation drives like in both ways. And if one of them developer thinks that this is amazing technology and they can solve everything. And yes, maybe, maybe not. But I need to make sure that the business has a need for that. And I always go and ask, okay, you want to do microservices. Okay, what is your use case or what is your business? Like, I don't know your business. This is the first time maybe we are interacting. You need to tell me more about your business. Okay, I'm creating an IoT device which pull the data from the solar panels, for example. That's one
Mhm.
use case I did recently. And they say, okay, we have the converters. We want to make sure that data flows well to our services, and they need to communicate each other, and we need to know that the solar panels are working and collecting electricity correctly, for example. That was the use case. I have never in the solar panel business, but they explained me, and okay, this is possible because the real-time data, they have all this data needs to flow, and they need to have some checks, and we can deliver this like the health of the panels, health of the or status of the panels. Like this is a Kafka or Confluent cloud use case. Then I said, yes, we can do it. But again, before understanding their business and use cases, I'm a bit cautious about that. I cannot say easily, okay, I can do it. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I appreciate that. You're providing options for people, right?
Yep.
Not to rush in too deep down the rabbit hole with an overly complex solution, or so there's different dimensions, but always starting with the business.
Yep. Yep.
And I suppose this ties to the fifth point, which was ask the right questions and real questions, um, which need to be asked before adapting to the technology. So
Yep.
I guess you've already spoken about.
Yeah, like
Mm,
actually you already touch a point on that. Like usually
mm,
I ask, in this solution, how does this help me to protect or grow my revenue, or the other way around, like to reduce my costs? And that is the first thing. And the second thing is I always like Occam's razor. I always say that, like that, reduce the complexity, make it like immediately like basic solution that I can deliver fast. It is also reduce the investment in technology stack, because if you have a basic solution and it's working well, and you can plug in other options, new products easily, and this will be the solution that you are looking for, because it is at least it is helping you to innovate new things. Like these are the 2 points I usually consider. Yeah.
okay. So it doesn't have to be rebuilding a banking transaction system. It could be any problem. And actually, this is the last point. So I think we've covered the 5 points you mentioned at the
Hmm.
start. For the final point, it's about use cases for data in motion, and
Yeah.
also ties to, or we can tie it to, if you're comfortable, tie it to Jason's question, which you can see on the chat. He talks about message exchange patterns. What does Confluent and Kafka support natively? So maybe this also ties to use cases, data in motion. Perhaps you could speak to that.
Yeah. Like the when we talk about the Kafka, everything is pops up. Like we have the producer and the consumer.
Hmm.
Producers just send data to Kafka, and they subscribe. Like the consumers will subscribe to data. This is how we exchange the data. And the good part for the Kafka or the Confluent, we make sure that consumers are consuming the data, and there is no bottleneck in any of them. Like if you think that the brokers is overwhelmed, you can just scale them. Or if you think that producers are sending data slow, you can scale them, like you can increase number of producers, or you can do the same thing with the consumer side. And that will be the maybe the scalability part. And when I go back to the use cases, like most of them, the use cases I work on, the biggest one probably the change data capture. Like everyone has the databases, and whenever you change something in your databases, it can be transactions, it can be your user profile, you change your address, and the business owner needs to ship this information to the another service. And like the in Kafka, using the Kafka connectors, you can do the change data capture. And
Hmm.
the second one I saw usually real-time alerts and notifications. Like if you have a business, as I mentioned, you have the solar panels, and you want to know that if something is broken, and you need to notify your the maintenance person to make sure that they can check, and or animal detection. Probably if you have a fraudulent transactions, you don't want to learn 2 days later. your vendor needs to capture this one in real time. That will be a good use cases, like if we are talking about the FSI.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are the some of them which I can immediately pops on to my
Yeah, I
mind.
think hopefully, Jason, that addresses your question on message exchange patterns and ties to some use cases. I mean, use cases could be so numerous for data exchange, data change. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, where can people find out more? There's the Partner Village, but is there any other resources that you might want to recommend?
Actually, Confluent developer website
Mm.
is amazing resource for Kafka related things, and maybe I can put this into the
Oh, can you do that? I was going to Google for it.
the chat, like the
Mm,
that will be perfect. I put into the
mm,
chat. And literally, you can have the courses starting from the Kafka 101 or the connectors or any real-time processing or the how Kafka works. Like the founder of the one of the founder of the Kafka, actually Jun Rao, has a course talking about the how really Kafka works. Like if you're a developer and if you want to learn the internal logic, these consumer producers and brokers, and go and check this out. It's like a small videos, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and you can just learn all like the important information from that, and you can have a quick start for your Kafka journey.
yeah, I think that's a great start. And then not forgetting what we talked about today, which is the Kafka event-driven services and also the path to innovation, where you can start on the considerations.
Yeah,
Uh,
and again, to market faster, I suggest them check the Confluent Cloud, and you don't need to worry about any maintenance, security, or patches for
mm.
like the Kafka maintenance. You can just use and create your product, and you can serve your customers.
Okay, so that's a shout out for the Confluent Cloud. Okay,
Yeah.
where is that available?
Okay, I will just give that link to you.
Mm. Let's face it, everyone wants a quick place to start, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like let me copy to the chat again.
Mm,
Yep. Confluent Cloud is ready to use. And and the first time you enroll to the Confluent Cloud, for first $400 is free. You can go and test it actually if it's working or not, and
mm.
start with your event-driven architecture, and it will be actually we in the developer web page we have the examples, and you can create your first producer and consumer and utilize the Confluent Cloud without installing anything.
Mm. Great. And don't forget to look for the business case and for
Yep.
the inflection point and the stress point, right? Then you
Yeah,
know
that's the important thing.
if there's only one takeaway, that's what I try and keep in front of my mind.
Yeah.
So we're up on the top end of the 25 minutes. In fact, I think it's a bit more than that. So thanks very much, Engin, and also everyone who's attended here. We can hang around in the chat if you have any other questions. Um, how else might people reach you if they are interested, if they have any questions after this?
They can actually reach out to me over LinkedIn,
Mm.
or like they also like they can send me email. Maybe I can just that's also possible.
Yes, if you're
Yeah.
comfortable.
Okay. Or like the easiest way is like the let me
It's more as a bonus for the people who attended here.
okay. I just put my email, and like they can just ask me and we
Mm.
can have a discussion. And also like the when they start to use the Confluent Cloud, and if they have any problem, we have a
Mm.
support, and
Yeah,
they can enroll to the support, and the support team will also help.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you.
time today. Thanks everyone for attending. And with that, I'll close the session. Have a good day.
Okay. Thank you, Johnson. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.